Welcome back. Now, you were going to add something to the social media aspect we were looking at before the break.
You know, I was here on Wednesday, on the Press Freedom Day, and I stated this, and I want to repeat it, that it's an idea, like Victor Hugo will say, whose time has come. There's nothing we can do about it. It means that we serious journalists, serious quote unquote, should accept the reality that journalism is migrating seriously from journalists to the citizens. That is why we talk of citizen journalism. It doesn't require training, it doesn't require anything. We can talk about regulating it. After all, they are members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors now. The accreditation committee has accepted them as editors. So regulation will be done later. But now it is the reality we have to face. And journalism schools should also adjust their curriculum to accept citizen journalism, call new media or call it any name, but the appropriate name is citizen journalism. Journalism is moving from journalists themselves to citizens that can file stories about anything from any part of the world, from their bedroom, from their toilet, from anything, and they put it, anything that happened, they are ahead of us, and that is why good journalism schools like Columbia, as I said on Wednesday, Columbia University in New York, they adjusted their curriculum long ago to read digital journalism, where you can be a print journalist, a broadcast journalist, a blogger, anything like that. And when you get to their website, as I said on Wednesday here, you will see journalism plus computer science is equal to digital journalism. So that you don't have to waste your time blaming anything. It's an idea whose time has come. You see now, even government agencies and some serious agencies are setting up their own new media units, and they're equipping them. Unfortunately, we are not reforming our curriculum in our schools here, as I said here, to have town and gown, to put heads together, reform the curriculum of journalism. This is the reality we have to face, and policymakers in this country should note that they need to reform journalism curriculum, change from all these things they call mass communication here. Nobody calls it mass communication anywhere. It's journalism is very reformed, it's dynamic, and our education policy makers should face that reality. It's very good. This last week, yes, there was a lecture by one of the former executive secretaries of National Universities Commission. I think they set the framework for reform of curriculum in Nigeria, of higher education, to reflect the reality in the new world now, where technology, social technologies define what we do.
Okay, the theme for this year's celebration is critical minds for critical times. Now, that could tie into what you've just said about this is an idea whose time has come. But how much of the story is being told as compared to how much of the opinion of the journalist is out there?
Well,
and that's what happens most especially in the how do you call it, new media platform, where you have more of the opinion than the story. How can that be changed?
Well, as I said, and which is rightly said, is a revolving situation we find ourselves. This is not something we are used to, especially I'm talking in terms of the new media now, because the story is being written, we are rewriting the story from what it used to be. You have to realize that people don't need to wait for 10 o'clock news any longer before they can get breaking news or things happening. Everybody, quote and unquote, has become a journalist on their own, whether professionally or unprofessionally. People go about picking news, posting them, not minding sentences, nobody's reading, trying to read in between the lines and say, oh, how do you cast your headlines? I mean, the fact is, yes, you understand what nobody cares for headlines. The fact is that the story is there. And how much we are telling that story, we are. The problem we have presently, as it were, is that most often than not, most of us in the mainstream, when I say us now, I am putting everything. There has to be a lot of orientation, retraining. Most of our practitioners presently are not in tune with modern technology of telling news items. Go over across the globe. It's only when you step out of Nigeria you come to realize that probably what we are doing here, we've not even gotten there. Because, take for example, you go for a conference in New York. As you're walking in, you're walking with your laptop. You don't even need to walk in with your tabs and the rest of them. You just walk in, there's a press center, go in there, queue your news, send immediately and the rest of them. Here, somebody has to go cover the report, come back, type. After typing, have to crop the pictures, have to send, and the rest of them. And other parts of the world, this is what we can just do, instant and the rest of them. So we are really evolving. What we need to do as a country is for us to be, especially those in government, to realize that it is a new era. Okay? It is not easier for you to just say, "Come, hey, you don't say this, don't come out." Let's take for example what happened at the Villa a few days ago. We are a journalist from Punch newspaper is all over the place. Was bad from covering the State House. In the past, it happened. But here, now, you can't do that. Because even before you mentioned, it was already in social media, even before the conventional media start talking about the SA. So the president has to react because of what he has degenerated across globe. So the situation we find ourselves is a situation where we have to realize that journalism in itself is a revolving institution which has gone beyond what we are currently thinking of.
Okay. You raised a very important question about content development, that we are reading the opinion, not the story. Yes. Very serious. And that speaks to the spirit of laziness in us now. Yeah. You know what he was saying, he didn't address what we in the mainstream should be doing. Yeah.
So if
news magazines,
just tie this in because we're running out of time. So if there is a question of laziness in us,
yes, laziness in us.
How do we now expect the authorities to take us seriously? How won't they continue to arrest and jail. And then even the people you're supposed to be speaking for kidnap?
There's no correlation. It is we that will lose the market. They are the market. We are the practitioners. We are the operators. What we need to do is to be serious with our content development. That if we do not develop serious content, we lose the market, we lose the news. And then the people will not take us serious. So even if they suppress us, they say blah, 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 we still need to invest in people. Training, yes, training, but there is no alternative. Journalism is still journalism. You need to go out to the field. As I joked here on Wednesday, we used to hear from one of the organs that we cannot beat the rich. And I said we are now unable to reach the bait. We should be able to reach the bait and get the story out there. Invest in reporters. These are the most important elements in journalism. So our reportage should be more serious. We should get to the beat, get to IDP camps, get to, as I sent one of my reporters, I sent it all of The Guardian. I sent one of my reporters to the Northeast for 3 weeks, and he came back and we published the story, a award-winning story, for 5 days in The Guardian. So these are stories. You need to invest in such reporters, even for television documentaries, that people will sit down and watch and call others. Are you watching? Are you reading this story in The Guardian? Are you reading this? Are you doing that?
Quickly
we need to do more of that.
We have to go in a few minutes. So how do we manage the situation, the peculiar situation in Nigeria, where we have a law that should give us access, but you don't seem to get that access? So the moment they know you're a journalist, the door is shut in your face. You can't get the facts, you can't get the data, and then if you do publish whatever you have, you get that backlash. No, we are misquoted, it's not true, and all that. So how do we balance that?
The FOI was supposed to be
in
a tool.
30 seconds.
Yes, a tool that ought to have aided journalists in performing their duties in this country. But from what we have seen, just as you rightly said, is that the process of getting those information is very difficult. Well, you have to go to a court to get an affidavit that you need a sort of information, and you get to the ministry, and somebody say you read it. At the end of it, it has not. I think we still need to have a second look at that law, as it were presently. It's not serving the purpose it's supposed to serve.
And I think that we do not, before we have a second look, I think what we have is still okay. What we need is to be more serious. There won't be a time these people will give us access. We need to create our own access. and get our data out, use subterfuge approaches.
And get into trouble.
And get, we have to get into trouble.
At the risk of getting into trouble.
If we don't get into trouble, it means, I said earlier, we are not doing the job. We should expect trouble. If you get married to a journalist, you know you are married to some struggle. And you get married to trouble.
As it happened to me.
Yeah, definitely. I have been to prison. They arrested me before. I have spent so many months in jail. It doesn't matter.
I was there for 23
It is still
days.
part of struggle, and it will continue to remain with us because of the advent of the strong man in the world.
Thank you so much, Chris Nwando, President of the Professional Bloggers of Nigeria Guild. Thank you for joining us. And Mr. Martin Soloja, member editorial board, The Guardian.
Thank you
we
very
really
much.
don't have enough time to look at all of this. I'm sure we'll have more time for more conversations. Thank you for speaking with us.
You're welcome.
So, we'll be back shortly. Don't go away.